regime change, I guess you would call it, which some people are gonna be talking about that. So how does this work?
So, if I may, what the president indicated within his 230 to the what's going to happen here is that they will take out all of the regime. They will also take out the Navy, which is very important, especially there along the Strait of Hormuz. In addition to that, what happens on the ground is, from intelligence purposes, and we don't know all the facts right now. I don't know what the Secretary of War and the War Department has strategized and planned, but within the context of those plans, according to some military analysts that I've spoken to, and military analysts have reported on this, and it's more than likely that some of the generals within Israel's military have already compromised the regime, and that they will work with the Iranian people, and that they will work to actually stop any type of reprisals from the hardliners there. If that's the case, then you can expect that there will be some movement on the ground. Uh, we won't have U.S. boots on the ground. There will be other forces at work here within the Iranian people. Moving that forward, moving that ball forward, I think one of the key strategies that the United States has learned from its mistakes during the Iraq War, during Operation Iraqi Freedom, is that you can't go in, just as you said, Dan, and take out Saddam Hussein and take out the forces, and then say, okay, now it's yours. No, that's not happening in this case. That's why it's a very indicative when the president said, lay down your arms, we will give you immunity. Now, at that point, we are already hearing that Reza Pahlavi, the son of the Shah, is already making moves to try to come in and perhaps lead to some sort of provisional government should that become a possibility. That is something for the Iranian people themselves to decide if they will agree to that or not. However, militarily, what's going on is that you're giving them immunity, the Iranian military. That gives them a reason not to come back and create an insurgency, but to actually come back and help rebuild their broken country and restore the lives and the livelihoods of people that they have seen suffer under the leadership, the tyrannical leadership of this regime. That is a scenario that could happen because what they will be able to do is actually have a force in place that is trained, perhaps not as well as the Quds Force or the Republican Guard, but they are there and they will be able to help perhaps bring order to the chaos as well as bring rebuilding to it. All of this is important. The United States watching closely, Israel watching closely, and as Chuck has talked about, even the Arab nations now watching closely because of the fact that out of its desperation, the Iranian regime has attacked its own Arab neighbors.
Anybody else on the panel want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, just a couple of things. I know from our reporting earlier with George Thomas, he was saying that Pahlavi was also talking about immunity for many of the Iranian leaders, and I think he's also come out with a 6-month plan, provisional plan for transition from the current regime to a secular democracy. And so I think that those two things could be key in the transition that might come sooner than people think, if the Ayatollah and many of the leadership have already been eliminated.
Chris, how likely is it that these military leaders, and anybody can weigh in on this, how likely is it that they actually follow this? I mean, are they looking at the situation on the ground and going, wow, especially if the Ayatollah, we don't know yet, but if he was taken out, I think we've seen between Israel and the U.S. a very high capability of there's no place to hide, basically. Like you are not getting away here. Are they seeing that and seeing what do you see happening there?
Well, I was talking yesterday to the former Israeli ambassador to the USDA line, and we were talking about these possible defections. He compared it to maybe 1989 with the Soviet Union when some of that leadership began to defect. We will see. Maybe we'll see in a few hours, a few days. But you said, like you said, the caveat is this is a fanatical regime. They have a die-hard ideology and theology that they're anticipating the return of the 12th Imam. So it may not be sort of like the Soviet Union playbook, but maybe something far different. Lana, I'd be curious to know what you're thinking.
Yes, same thoughts, Chris. I think there is right at the top a very ideological mindset here that isn't going to be swayed even by survival, perhaps. We'll see. Perhaps human nature will kick in and just the desire to live it through will come. But there is a sense that this is a fight to the death, whatever happens. There's pride involved. This has been a holy war for many decades. But I think as you come further down the leadership, even though they would have been completely on board with the religious mindset, that the survival instinct, I think, is more likely to kick in. And we mustn't underestimate the power of prayer. As a church, we've been praying for a long time, and one of the topics of prayer has been moral courage for the people further down the chain who've been given wicked instructions to stand up and say, no more. We don't want to engage in this kind of behavior anymore. We have seen the answers to some of those prayers. Some of the reports I had were IRGC agents who stood down. One particularly was told to rape all the women in his care, and his response was, I'm not doing it, and he resigned. I refuse to engage in this kind of activity. Another one of our leaders said they directly overheard a conversation between an IRGC agent and a police officer arguing about whether tear gas should be deployed in a situation, and the RGC agent wanted tear gas to be used, and the police officer, who's lower ranking, fought the brief, the instruction, came up with a case to say, no, this is not necessary for this and this reason, and the RGC agent stood down. So I think if you do work your way further down the chain, of course, and the numbers get much bigger as well, there is hope that people will stand up and say, it's better for me to switch sides here.
Chuck, what are you seeing there on the border? I mean, you're over in Armenia here, and so you're in the region here. What are you hearing about at the border over there? I mean, that's where refugees could possibly be trying to cross. I know there's protests there that you mentioned earlier today. So